Everything changes when we get together.
That's the voice of Courtney McDermott. Hi there, my name is Mathew Blades, and welcome to a special 9-episode series of bite-sized content called a microdose for the things that keep you up at night. Here's the way I look at life. Each one of us is just a sequence of words away from having everything make sense, or at least gaining more clarity. So if you're ready to make a micro investment in you and walk through topics like blowing up what you built, tuning out the noise, becoming that transitional character, improving your health, your relationships, advancing in your career, then you found the right place. Welcome to a very special Learn from People Who Lived It. Welcome to episode 3, the transitional character. So, you know me, Courtney, I absolutely love the idea of stepping into what I call the transitional character energy. In your book, you write a lot about becoming a new character. I'll start with you, and then we'll get to my thoughts on the transitional character. But why is it going to be so important for somebody, in your opinion, to step into that new character energy if they're looking to make a shift in their life and take more action?
It's just the most beautiful thing when you start to understand that your consciousness is able to completely change form, your form, the expression through this form. I sometimes give I don't usually use slides and things in presentations around the world, but I've recently, over the last few years, I've been using some because I wanted to show a picture of myself from 10 years ago. And you and I've talked about this, but when I was working in corporate, and I look like a completely different human being. I mean, most people in the audience cannot recognize me at all. And then when people start to recognize that it's the same human that they're seeing represented in this photograph as the one standing on the stage, there's just this open mouth shock. And I've seen this in clients. I've had multiple cases where people have had instantaneous, massive changes in their form. I had a young woman who was once brought to work with me who, and I don't work with younger people, but I had this prominent family, and I'd known them for a few years, and they really wanted me to work with their daughter on something else, not this issue, but she had terrible eczema. And they were extremely well resourced. You know, they had tried everything. And within one session, it was gone, completely gone. And what we see from the studies, different studies, ones that I really like to look into and talk about in some of my presentations are multiple personality disorder, which now goes by a different name. I can't recall. You will see in people in the minute they change so-called personality, these massive changes start taking place where, weight loss, for example, inexplicable sudden weight loss, changes in heart rate variability, changes in cholesterol levels, like the length of their telomeres, which are those strands at the end of your DNA, right, that indicate your age. So we see this with other studies. And again, I cite multiple studies from multiple different fields for people to start understanding this, because the minute you understand that where you're directing your consciousness, you are allowing for or not allowing for change in your life, then you start to play a whole new game.
I just got this huge smile on my face because for me it's personal. I had terrible back pain for a lot of years, and I will tell you unequivocally that when I made the decision to blow up what I built and walked away from my career, the back pain disappeared. It was all tied to emotions, and so I know that's such a big, powerful thing for people. And so how do you know if this is you? You know this is you because you go to the doctor because your gut's all jacked up and they can't find anything wrong. You know this is you if you go to the doctor and you tell them your back hurts, but there's no herniated disc or there's no issues down there, right? I've seen it for myself that it's a real truth for people. The body keeps the score. We all know that, but the body will absolutely manifest your stress. For me, it gave me shingles on my face. It gave me panic attack after panic attack after panic attack. And then I stepped into this retreat, and this dude said to me, this native guy looked at me and he's like, Mathew, I think you're a transitional character in your lineage. And I said, okay, first that hits me in my soul. Second, explain that. What does that mean? And he said, I believe you're the person here to end dysfunction for your family and to move you and the people around you to higher ground. Like, I think that's who you are. And in a moment, you talk about, like I know we talked about in the first episode, about that sequence of words that can change somebody's life. That was one of those sequences of words that changed my life. When we step into this new character, the transitional character or not, when you step into what some people now are calling that main character energy, have you heard that now?
No.
This is a big thing in like a lot of music and stuff.
Okay.
They talk about you step into that main character energy. Like you're the main character, and they're not wrong.
Uh-huh.
You are the main character. And a lot of times we've been sitting around playing a supportive role, or a lot of times we've been an extra on the set when we probably had something to say that would have added a lot of value and left people better than we found them. So I love the idea. And to me, it can feel like, I think it goes two ways for people. You go, oh my God, I have to be this new person. Or, hold on, oh my God, I get to be this new person. I get to step into this newness. No longer do I have to wear this old skin. I get to finally be the person that I want to be. And for me, that feels like straight up motivation to hop to it. Like, let's go.
What shifted in you? What steps, what things started to happen through you as a result of having that awareness?
I started to go right through everything. I stopped going over and around it, under it, avoiding it, which I'm super good at. I started going right through everything. If I was sitting there and I had this feeling of like, oh God, this is going to be scary, it was like, that was my cue to jump right through the hoop. And I'm still working on that practice. So that's what it is for me. It gave me the courage to attack things and to not sit back, because that's my personality. I'm a chill guy. Like, I'm a pretty peaceful dude. I don't really love rocking the boat. It's not my favorite thing in the world. I'm a little bit better when everybody's getting along and shit's good and chill and relaxed, right? Like, I love that. But I've also come to realize that if you're going to be a new character, if you're going to be the transitional character, if your job and your role is to move you and your family out of dysfunction, to break cycles, to move on, like, there's going to be things that you have to tackle head on, and they can't be avoided.
Yeah. So give me an example when you say also bringing your family out of this. Can you give me, because I know also in the time that you were going through your mom's passing and everything else, like, there are examples that I've seen from you. I've seen this in action. What are certain ones you would cite for someone listening who's saying, okay, well, great. You know, you got this information, or I've got this information in a way, and maybe these are the sequence of words that are changing things for someone who's listening. But what are the concrete ways from your life that you saw that, oh my gosh, it was all of a sudden this thing was not just from a perspective of I went straight through. Give me, what is one of the things you went straight through? You charged at that you were afraid of?
First thing was walking away from my career.
Okay.
That was one of the first and biggest things, was walking away from my career.
And how did you do that? Did you just kind of go in and say, I'm done?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I walked in.
I've had some friends do that recently. Right. Really powerful.
Listen, and again, I mean, you talk about going in a highway and moving people in a peaceful way, and I was lucky in that scenario. I work in an industry that's typically very ruthless, but this particular group of people that I was working with, they gave me a lot of runway. They said, "Why don't you take 3 months and figure it out?" And I said, "I don't need 3 months. I know what I'm doing right now." And so that's one example. Here's the second example that's really meaningful. You just brought up my mom. I won't say I had a terrible relationship with my mom, but I didn't have the kind of relationship that I wanted with my mom. And I felt, and she didn't have the kind of relationship with her dad that she wanted. And I'm just going to take a guess here that his dad didn't have the kind of relationship that he wanted with his parents. And then I'm going to take another guess and say that it goes back even further than that. So probably one of the most difficult conversations that I ever had to have was with my mom after my retreat. I had to call her and I had to say, this isn't working for me anymore. And I don't think it's working for you either. So how can we put this train back on the tracks? We don't need to have the most perfect relationship. I don't need to call you every day, and we don't need to talk for 3 hours. But I do need to get to a stage in my life where when I see your number show up on my phone, I don't want to send you to voicemail. Right? And so that's an example of what does a transitional character do in that moment? He goes through it. Oof. He calls the person that he's worried, that he's thinking about or she's thinking about, and he just handles it. And as you just mentioned, like, I can't even imagine a life in a scenario where I didn't do that work, because she died last year. She died almost a year ago to the taping of this podcast. And if I hadn't been that transitional character, if I hadn't had those tough conversations and gone right through that issue, I might have been a lot of regret, might have been a lot of remorse, might have been a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas. And I don't have to live with that.
That's gold.
That's gold. That's what freedom feels like.
That's what freedom feels like.
So that's what it means to me to step into that energy.
Dang. Oh, I love it. And again, harkens back to an earlier episode in this series of saying what you need to say and having the courage to do that, and the magic that meets with that kind of audacity.
Yeah. Okay, so when we step back into this process, we're going to jump next into spirituality. And, you know, this is one of those words that I think can be a little polarizing for people. Are we going to talk about religion? Are we going to talk about this, that, and the other thing? I think if there's anything I want to tee up before we jump into this new episode, and I'll say it again when we get in there, but don't get so focused on the words we use, but the way it makes you feel to be connected to whatever that thing is. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see everybody for episode 4 in just a minute.